Latin 2, Spring 2018, Exam 4, the final, Possibilities. From Chapter 26. Number 7. Regina fortissima Carthaginis postea ostendit, fidem semper esse sibi cariorem divitiis. Here is your subject, Regina. What kind of Regina? The fortissima. The fortissima Regina. This is your nominative, singular, feminine ending on the superlative form of the adjective fortis, forte. The queen, what did she do? She exhibited that. We are going to see an indirect statement, which we expect an accusative subject plus the infinitive verb, and sure enough, we have it here, accusative subject, infinitive verb of the indirect statement. So the very brave queen of Carthage, this is genitive, afterwards exhibited, displayed, showed that faith, accusative, singular, feminine, subject of the indirect statement. Faith was, present, infinitive, we call it the active infinitive, but with the verb to be, that's all there is, was always more dear, accusative, singular, feminine, modifies fidem, which is the accusative subject of the indirect statement, the comparative degree of the adjective, divitiis, ablative, plural, feminine. Why is it ablative? As this is your ablative of comparison. Sibi, it's the reflexive pronoun, dative, singular, feminine, was always more dear to her, or to herself. I don't think we would say to herself in English, but it is, faith was always more dear to her than riches. So the very brave queen of Carthage afterwards showed that faith was always more dear to her than riches. Number 8. Negavit, se quam vidisse servam fideliorem quam hanc. This is your verb negavit, third person singular, present perfect, active indicative. Negavit, he did not say, he denied. That's going to introduce an indirect statement, and as in the sentence before, indirect statement is going to expect the accusative subject plus the infinitive verb, and we have the accusative subject say, the infinitive verb. Notice this is the perfect active infinitive, which indicates it is time before the main verb, and since the main verb is present perfect, the vidisse we are going to translate as had. He denied that he had ever seen a what? This is your true accusative of the indirect statement, the direct object, in other words, of the verb. A servant, fideliorem, more faithful. This is accusative, singular, feminine. It modifies the direct object in the indirect statement. This is the comparative degree. Quam hanc. Hanc is the, I'm going to draw a line here. It's the same case as this. Quam hanc, this is your other alternative. This is the alternative to the ablative of comparison. In other words, with the comparison, we have A, the option of putting in or B, quam plus the same case is what's being compared, and that's what we have here. He denied, or he did not say, he denied that he had ever seen a servant more faithful than this one. Number 11. Imperator centum milites fortissimos, prae se heri misit. Subject verb, the emperor sent. This is your third person singular present perfect, active, indicative. The emperor sent soldiers, accusative, plural, masculine. How many soldiers? 100 soldiers. What kind of soldiers? Fortissimos. This modifies milites also. This is your accusative, plural, masculine. The superlative degree of the adjective, very brave soldiers. Or it could be the 100 bravest soldiers in this sentence. I don't know which. The emperor sent 100 very brave soldiers, or the emperor sent the 100 bravest soldiers. Grammatically, I cannot argue for either one in this sentence. Before him, in front of him, prae se yesterday. The emperor sent 100 very brave soldiers before him yesterday. Those are the three options for chapter 26. Let's look at the three options for chapter 27. Number 1. Quisque cupit quam pulcherrima atque utilissima dona dare. Subject, quisque, verb, cupit. Each desires. Dare is the complementary infinitive. To give. Each desires to give quam pulcherrima. Well, let's back up. Each desires to give gifts. Accusative, plural, neuter. This is your main sentence. Each desires to give gifts. What kind of gifts? Pulcherrima atque utilissima, but it is preceded by quam. Quam plus the superlative equals as possible. So in this case, each desires to give gifts as beautiful and as useful as possible. That's the translation. Let's talk about pulcherrima. This is the irregular adjective. First of all, it's accusative, plural, neuter because it modifies dona, but it is the irregular adjective, the irregular form. You want it to be pulcherrima, but with that er in the nominative singular masculine, that er adjective, it's errima, or erimus, in general, and in this case, it's accusative, plural, neuter. Utilissima is regular in the superlative form, and that shouldn't pose a problem at all. Each desires to give gifts as beautiful and useful as possible. Number 2. Quidem terpes habent plurima, sed etiam plura petunt. So we have two verbs I recognize right off the bat, habent and petunt, and they seem to be in the same. One's not a clause of the other because of but, the conjunction but. So certain, shameful. This modifies shameful. This is nominative plural masculine, nominative plural masculine. How do you know? Well, the squidam in front of it nails that. It seals it into place. Terpes, shameful men, shameful people, shameful men, nominative plural men. The substantive use of the adjective have very many things. Plurima. This is that very many. The superlative degree of the adjective, accusative, plural, neuter, superlative degree, and I think very many fits better here as opposed to the most. Very many things, but even more. This is accusative, plural, neuter. This is the comparative degree of the adjective, but they seek even more. Certain shameful men have very many things, but even more they seek. Number 7. Iste tyrannus pessimus negavit, se viros libros umquam oppressisse. Looking at the structure, we have the verb here, negavit, which is going to indicate, which is going to lead us to expect an indirect statement, which is, of course, as I've written twice already, indirect statement equals accusative subject plus infinitive verb, which we do have here. Before we tackle that, let's go to the main sentence. The tyrant denied. What kind of nominative singular masculine? What kind of tyrant? That tyrant. Moreover, that Pessimus. This is nominative singular masculine. Superlative degree of the adjective. That baddest. Or I guess we could say the very bad, that very bad tyrant denied that he, accusative singular masculine, but it is the accusative subject, that he oppressisse, perfect, active, infinitive. Because it's perfect, that indicates time prior to the main verb. The main verb is third person singular, present perfect, active, indicative. To go before the present perfect, we have to use had. That very bad tyrant denied that he had oppressed. He had oppressed who? Men. This is the accusative plural masculine, the accusative following oppressisse. Ever oppressed free men. Ever. That very bad tyrant denied that he had ever oppressed free men. And those are the sentences for chapter 27. We now turn to the possibilities for chapter 28. Number 2. Itaque pro patria etiam maiora melioraque nunc faciamus. And so, that's what it starts out with. And so, the only verb is faciamus, and hopefully you recognize that the mus is the we. And present, well, let's back up. First person plural, present, active, subjunctive. Remember, let's beat a giant liar. This comes from facio, facere, facie, factum, and this is the, so therefore this is a third IO, that IA, first, second, third IO, and fourth. The IA comes into play in these subjunctive, the present active subjunctive, or honestly, present passive subjunctive, truth be told, but not in this case. This is active. It is the hortatory subjunctive in this case. Hortatory subjunctive. Let us. Hortatory. Let us now do for our country even greater. Accusative, plural, neuter, substantive use of the adjective, and better. Accusative, plural, neuter, better things. This is the comparative degree. This is also the comparative degree. And let us do it now. And so for our country, let us now do even greater and better things. Number 4. Ne imperator superbus credat se esse feliciorum quam virum humilimum. Lots going on into this sentence. Introduced by ne, not the ne that goes at the end of the verb at the end of the first word when you have a subject, but a word all unto itself, ne. And when you hit the main verb, ne credat, you see, that makes sense. That a, remember the verb is credo, credere. I'm going to say credo, credere, cresci, I believe. At the very least, this tells you that it is a credo, credere. It is a third conjugation verb. And you get that a in the subjunctive. Let's beat a giant liar. That a in the subjunctive. Ne plus the subjunctive is your, in the third person, singular, present, active, subjunctive is your jussive subjunctive. Jussive. With the ne, it's the negative jussive. Let not that proud emperor believe that, for the fourth time, I'm not going to write it this time because you know it's the accusative subject and infinitive verb. Let not that proud emperor believe that he is feliciorum, luckier or happier. This is your accusative singular masculine. Why is it accusative? Because it agrees with the accusative subject and indirect statement that he is happier. This is the comparative degree of the adjective than a very humble or the humblest man. I think the humblest sounds nice in English. This is the accusative singular masculine. The superlative degree of the adjective. Notice this is the irregular form with facialis, difficalis, similis, dissimilis, gracilis, and humilis. Notice this is the six adjectives that use that instead of the humilissimus, they shorten up, double up the L, humilimum. So for this word, humilimum, we've got two things going on. Number one, it is the irregular adjective form of the superlative, the irregular form of the superlative. And number two, with quam, this is the alternative form of the comparison. Than the humblest of man. Than the humblest man. Let not the proud emperor believe that he is more happy than a humbler man, a very humble man. Honestly, I flip-flop between a very humble man or the humblest man. I don't know what sounds best in English. I leave that up to you. Both are acceptable, and grammatically both are supported. Number 8. Imperium duci potentiori dabunt ut hostes acerimus avertat. Dabunt is your verb. Do, dare, dedi, datum. You get that bu in the third person, plural, future, active, indicative. They will give power. And the duci is your dative, singular, masculine. They will give power. Oh, this is your accusative, singular, neuter. They will give power to the leader. What kind of leader? It modifies duci, dative, singular, masculine. It is the comparative degree. To the more powerful leader. So that he might turn. Third person, singular, present, active, subjunctive. Remember, this is averto, avertere, aversi, aversum. So this it is a third conjugation verb. The a is the present in the third conjugation verb, so that he might turn away the enemy. What kind of enemy? The acerimus, the very bitter, very harsh, very keen enemy. This is also accusative, plural, masculine. Started to write singular because I wanted to write as the superlative degree of the adjective, the very fierce or the fiercest enemy. Once again, as in the sentence before, if I'm not mistaken, that acerimus, it is the irregular form of the superlative. I don't believe there's a reason to note that, just as long as you recognize it with that er, one of the like pulcher, acer. We have they double up on that r for the superlative degree of the adjective. Putting it all together, they will give power to the abler, to the more powerful leader, so that he might turn aside the very harsh enemy. I don't think I mentioned third person singular present active subjunctive. It is a purpose clause introduced by ut. Clause introduced by ut. Very important to note. And we now turn to chapter 29. Sentence number 7. Quidam magister verbatam dura discipulis dixit ut discaterent. Let's look at the structure. We've got us discaterent. Ut introduces, it could be a purpose clause, could be a result clause. Let's take a look at what other clues we have. In the main clause, the teacher said. Not only the teacher, which is nominative singular masculine, but a certain teacher said words, accusative plural neuter. Aha, here's our clue. Tom, so harsh, with words like Tom, ita, seek, and the adjective tantus, which means which means so much. We expect a result clause. He spoke words so harsh to the students. Harsh modifies words. Discipulis is your dative, plural masculine, that, as a result, they departed. We haven't seen this before in these examples. Third person, plural, imperfect, active, subjunctive. And I draw your attention to, this is an opportune time to bring it up, the sequence of tenses. We are in a secondary sequence. Remember the primary sequence, we have a primary and a secondary sequence. We are in the secondary, the past tense. Our choices for the secondary sequence are the imperfect subjunctive or the pluperfect subjunctive. The choices for the primary sequence are the present or the imperfect. Present or perfect. Excuse me. Present or the perfect subjunctive. The point of all of this is that once we are in a secondary sequence, our only choices are the imperfect or pluperfect subjunctive. And honestly, at this point in class, we've not had the pluperfect subjunctive, so we are locked, regardless of many other reasons why, into the imperfect subjunctive. So for the purposes of the exam, analyze it, third person plural, imperfect active subjunctive. It is a, and what is the reason for it? It is a result clause in a secondary sequence. A certain teacher spoke words so harsh to his students that they left. Third person plural, imperfect active subjunctive. It is the verb in a result clause in a secondary sequence. Number 9. Nihil vero Tom. Tom, look out, look out. Nihil vero Tom facile est ut sine labore id facere possimus. Well, we have ut here, and as we were reading through, we saw this word here, Tom. So we're going to presume this has all the signs of a result clause, but let's just hold that in the back of our heads right now. Nothing, indeed, is easy. Or specifically, nothing is so easy that, as a result, possimus. This is your first person, plural, present, active, subjunctive. Remember our sequence of tenses, I'll rewrite that. We have the primary and secondary. If we're in a primary sequence, our choice is the present subjunctive or the perfect subjunctive. In the secondary sequence, our choices are imperfect or pluperfect. Backtracking it, doing it the other way, I've identified this as the present active subjunctive. The present active subjunctive is in a primary sequence, and if I look at the verb here, est, I've confirmed that everything is consistent. Nothing is so easy that, as a result, we are able to do complementary infinitive with the verb to be, present active infinitive, that we are able to do it without labor. So therefore, this is the first person plural, present active subjunctive, result clause in a primary sequence. And that's it. We are done.